Hi, everyone. This is Allie at Heart and Soul Connected. And I've had a rather sad day, and out of the blue, very much. I have 3 Shih Tzu dogs. As you well know, I have my Caramel, and she passed last summer. And I have my beautiful Zoey, who I got in 2020 when she was 5 years old. So that would make her 11 this year. I have April Joy and a story behind the name. And I have my Coco, which many of you have just recently seen. She just turns 1 year old next week. And April is 5. So in 2020, I had a Shih Tzu dog that I had had for about 9 years. And she had a stroke, and I lost her fairly quickly. It was a terrible decision, a terrible situation. Her name was Little One, and she was adorable. She was just the cutest thing. Well, after she passed, I decided that I needed to have another Shih Tzu because I love them. And so I was able to find a 5-year-old Shih Tzu named Zoey. And I drove down to Yakima during the pandemic, and I got Zoey, and she has been an absolute joy to have as a pet. A baby, a fur baby, a fur child. And April Joy came in 2021, and because we had lost our other big dogs. We had a Sheltie named Bella and a Labrador, black lab, named Sable. Both of them passed, and they were about 14 years old. And we got April. And just recently, Caramel, who I'd gotten in 2022, and she was 10 when I got her. I had her for about 3 years, and I lost her last summer. She had cancer. And so I found Coco, and Coco will be 1 year old. I got her at 7 months, and I got her from the same breeder where I got Zoey. So there is a point to this story. My love for animals makes me never regret having them, even though losing them is so very, very painful. So this morning, I got up and stepped in vomit, which isn't a way to wake up in the morning, but unfortunately, my poor Zoey had been sick to her stomach. And I went in to talk to Keith, who had been up earlier, and he said she had thrown up again and that she wouldn't eat. She wasn't feeling well. And I thought it was one of those, maybe she ate something wrong, bugs, and she got rid of it and she was going to be okay. But as the day progressed, she didn't really feel any better. And she wasn't really my Zoey. She just wasn't. She wasn't up to what her old tricks are. So about 3 o'clock, Keith took her outside. It was raining out, and he couldn't find her. She likes to always go around and find a private place to go to the bathroom. So he went to go find her, and she was lying on the grass in the rain, and she was making noise. She was in pain. And so he picked her up and brought her in the house, and she started wailing. And he came right in and he said, I need to go to the vet right now. There's something wrong. And so I said, I agreed with him, and he took off and went over there. Well, the vet said that she was in need of being in an ICU situation. So sent us down to past Tacoma into Lakewood, where they have a vet clinic that's an emergency vet. And so poor Keith, he's on his way down there and he's working the best he can to get there. And it's just taking forever because it's drive time and everybody's going home from work. So it took him like an hour to finally get there. When by the time they got there, they did an ultrasound on her and they couldn't find anything wrong. And then they did x-rays, same, but they took some blood work and she was elevated bilirubin, which if any of you understand that that's usually an indication of jaundice or some kind of an issue. And so they said, we need to keep her and we can probably in the morning do another ultrasound and see if we can find out what's going on. But her stomach was distended and she was in apparent distress. And so it wasn't a good situation to begin with. Keith made it home and he wasn't home maybe 20 minutes and the vet called and said, she's taken a turn for the worse and I don't want you to have any regrets. And so please come if you feel you want to see her. I can't guarantee that she's going to make it through the night. So we got back in the car. We went down. It's about a 40-minute drive. I went in and talked to her and kissed her on her little head. She wouldn't move. Her eyes were filled with tears. It was very, very difficult for me. And I talked to the vet who was really having quite a hard time with it, a young vet. And he said, I don't want to ever give anybody, not give them hope. And I said, yes, but you have to realize also that if they're in pain, there's no reason for them to suffer. If he said he thought she went into sepsis, which is extremely painful, especially for dogs, and it's distended abdomen. It's usually from some kind of an infection that basically makes her whole body hurt. The painkillers weren't working, and her blood pressure medication was not doing the job it did, and her there were other things elevated. And so he said, I'm afraid if I give her this medicine that I will put her into cardiac arrest. And I said, then you must not resuscitate her. I said, I don't want her to go through that. I can't have her go through that. And I pretty much knew at that point that that was the last time I was going to see my little girl alive. And I had I don't have any regrets. She and Caramel, this one, they were really sweet old ladies together. Both of them had been breeding dogs. And Caramel would defer to her all the time because we called Zoey the little sergeant, the little boss. She was always in charge. She was the main cheese, you know. And when Caramel left, Zoey was with us because the vet had come to the house. And the vet had done a beautiful job seeing her off. And Zoey sat right beside me as I held Caramel to let her go to the other side. And Zoey really, really took it bad. She, you know, she was Zoey. She went over and afterwards and she smelled her and she was allowed to work her in her own way. But for days after that, she would go to that place on the couch where she was sitting and I was sitting. And it was as though she knew exactly that that's where she lost her sister, that that's where she went. So according to Medium Kim Copeland, who's a wonderful friend, my dad on the other side, he's in charge of all my dogs. And I get that. My dad used to say that he never wanted to bury another dog when my brothers were kids. But my dad loved dogs. And I know he's got like 8 of my dogs over there probably. And I told him that he might have another one tonight. And I told Zoey the same thing. I said, Grandpa's going to take care of you. Grandpa's going to take care of you until Mommy gets there. And so I told her that she didn't have to hold on for us, that we were going to be okay, and that she was going to be with Caramel and Grandpa and others. I kissed her on her little head. I patted her little face. And in some ways, she was already gone. She wasn't the Zoey that I knew. She was more subdued, but she was resigned, is the word I want to say. She was resigned to her fate. The doctor thought maybe she could make it, but he didn't know, and he was more worried about her comfort, as I was, and I had given him permission to take care of her needs. And 10 minutes ago, he called me, and we decided to let her go. It wasn't easy, and I don't ever think losing a pet is easy. It just isn't. But I said to the doctor, who was a young man, probably maybe 29 or 30 years old, I said, they never really leave us. They're always with us, and they're right here. He didn't really know what to do. I felt bad because he felt so bad. He knew that he couldn't pull off the miracle that he was very sensitive himself. And there was an understanding between the both of us. Keith had already left the room with the other two dogs to put them back in the car because they came along. And now I can think about my beautiful girl with a lot of love in my heart, who was there for me every single day during the pandemic. And many years later, 6 years with me, beautiful moments, lots of fun. If you can do it, even after you lose them, have a pet. There's nothing like a fur baby. It's very hard to lose them. Some people can't have one after losing them. I think I've got two now, and that's enough. But I'm getting a little bit older, so I just wanted to share this with you because I have studied death and dying for so many years, and I like to walk my talk. I also believe that when we can work through and have a catharsis of a very, very sad situation, we can grow from it, we can learn from it, and we can look back on the most marvelous opportunities that we had with that particular pet or fur baby or angel baby, with love and understanding and peace. Thank you for listening. I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to hope Zoey comes to me in my dreams. She'll always be with me, especially right here. God bless.